So wait, you guys sitting here
Yes, we're sitting here.
and you're reading off this?
Yes.
So how come?
I don't either.
You go first, you go there, you go,
Yeah,
go
this is
again.
It's not gonna work.
this is not comfortable.
Where is he? Come back. Where'd he go?
Yeah.
Where'd he go? This isn't comfortable holding a microphone
Can
and
we
us talking.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
come on.
Projected yeah.
Okay, so in that way, she has to
Then where do you want me?
pick up.
Then I'll
Right.
do it this way. Thank you very much. Gotcha. All right, is it on?
Yes, it
The
is.
mic is on?
Okay, I'm ready. Wait.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Landa, and I'm here representing a group known as New Yorkers for Justice. With me today is Brenda Torres and Carmen Enriquez. And we would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us the opportunity to let our voices finally be heard. Beginning in December of 2020, a series of allegations began to be hurled at Governor Andrew Cuomo. And ever since then, there have been accusations coming at him like poison arrows. There were accusations of sexual harassment, misleading numbers of nursing home deaths, a hostile working environment, preferential COVID treatment for his family, misuse of staff in order to write his book, and any other infraction that they could possibly hurl at him in order to shatter his good name. We listened in horror as 11 women strategically came forward with their descriptions of sexual misconduct against the governor, and he emphatically denied it time after time. But the media had no mercy and treated him in a cruel and inhuman way. When Attorney General James commanded that these allegations be investigated, Governor Cuomo willingly and repeatedly said that he welcomed this investigation in order for the truth to be told. It was agreed upon by both parties that a neutral team of independent investigators be assigned to look into these matters. Although it was not publicly declared at the time, Andrew Cuomo suspected that Letitia James had her sights set on running for governor in 2022. She knew that she had no chance to beat him in a fair election, and she began her mission to find a way to remove her greatest obstacle. And after weeks of a sham investigation, she brazenly stood before the media and the public and with a cold-hearted expression declared, "I believe these women," and then praised them for their bravery. There's clearly a conflict of interest here, and Miss James should have recused herself, all the while knowing that her motives were unethical. The idea of a neutral investigation team was formed, and it was Yoon Kim, a former U.S. attorney who specialized in criminal investigations and in the past had investigated Governor Cuomo for years, and he was unsuccessful. He was most distressed about that. There was also no love lost between them, and Miss James knew that. She was so well aware of that fact. The second investigator was Ann Clark, a plaintiff attorney who specializes in discrimination. That includes race, gender harassment, sexual orientation, and sexual harassment. So therein lies an investigation team with a deck stacked against the governor, because there was a mindset of these attorneys to prove any possible activity, sexual or otherwise, hoping to slander him with misconduct and crime. They had no intention of seeking the truth. I have read all of the 515 pages of the original testimony of Governor Cuomo before it was taken down and redacted. They battered him for 11 grueling hours, asking the same questions repeatedly in the hopes that he would crack under pressure. He never did. He methodically answered each and every question, no matter how many different ways they tried to rearrange their harpoons. He answered them in the exact same way. There was no story changing, no hesitation, and no hint at all that he was being untruthful. He did not have prior knowledge to any of these questions. He just told the truth, but they refused to hear the truth. And the AG was all set to embellish, fabricate, and omit in any way that she could in her report so she could achieve her goal. On October 8th, Rita Glavin, counsel for the governor, sent a letter to the New York State Assembly Judiciary Committee calling for an investigation due to the many failings and omissions of this flawed report. She repeatedly requested transcripts, but no matter how many times and how many ways she asked for them, her requests went unanswered. And to date, She has not received the full report, and because of this lack of transcripts, counsel to Governor Cuomo was not able to prepare a proper defense, and that denied him due process, and he is entitled to that. Perhaps Ms. James has never learned the definition of due process, or what is she hiding? So outraged were his many supporters that we decided we would begin our own investigation in order to seek the truth. We were informed that a Mr. R.A. Ramirez was already in the throes of this project, and he graciously permitted us to partner with him. Mr. Ramirez worked with professional investigators and attorneys, and after weeks of intense and scrupulous examination of evidence, much of what had never been presented either to the governor nor his counsel, the Ramirez team was able to compile both the truths and admissions that should have been present in the report. These failures that were uncovered, but by no means limited, credited witnesses where there was no evidence of their versions of accounts that were truthful. They were either changed over a period of time or were directly contradicted by other witnesses. There were 179 witnesses interviewed, yet only 41 of them were under oath. It leads us to wonder if these particular witnesses had something that might cause or be constructed as damaging. What happened to the other 138? Why weren't they placed under oath? Was it because they had nothing negative to say about the governor? This report is absolutely flawed, and it's biased against the Governor Cuomo. It uncovers witnesses questioning which is contrary testimony. It has threats and bold-faced lies. This report presents clear evidence of a political effort to oust the governor. There were groups formed in the state legislature to plot ways to accomplish their goals, and enclosed in this report, there's clear evidence not only of these groups, but exactly who formed them and exactly who participated in them. They attacked him in various chat rooms on Twitter and on Instagram. There was a carefully coordinated, cascaded attack by which the governor was ambushed. No other way to describe it. He was ambushed, and it was in order to achieve their ultimate goal, the resignation of the most powerful and dynamic leader in our country. The most heinous of all the flaws in this report lies in the fact that the backgrounds of these women were never looked into. Had they taken the time to do so, they would have found motives, patterns, and very reasonable doubt. But they didn't do that because they weren't looking for that. They were looking for a crucifixion. With scandals exploding all around him and a toxic environment surrounding him, Governor Andrew Cuomo was coerced into granting the Attorney General the authority to investigate him. According to Executive Law 63.8, this is illegal. The statute mandates that there should be a need for an investigation, then the governor could potentially name the investigator. It also states that the governor should be in control, and it's mandated that the information is not to be disclosed to anyone other than the governor until he or she decides what to do with the information. The statute used was one that refers to public safety, peace, and public justice law. This is totally illogical, as this statute is not designed for the governor to investigate himself. Doesn't the Attorney General know the law? This cannot be waived unless the law is changed, and it most certainly was not. The public disclosure of this report by the Attorney General is in total violation because it is required by law that the governor had to have been provided by the report prior to its being made public. In fact, the entire process by which this flawed report was created and disclosed totally violates the terms of Executive Law 63.8. Civil practice law, section 307, was violated as well. Should any of the alleged victims of sexual harassment or the conduct of the governor comes into question, it is to begin legal action by the Attorney General, and she is required to defend the state. And in this case, the state is embodied by the governor. She did everything but defend him. In fact, she was the hammer that drove the nail in his coffin. It was her ethical obligation, therefore, to recuse herself from this case because she had a clear conflict of interest. It was to be conducted by an independent, unbiased team of investigators. This was agreed upon when the governor requested such in a referral letter, and this never happened. With all, if not most, of the members of the State Assembly and senators calling for the governor's resignation, and they being in possession of the Attorney General's flawed report, a conviction in the Senate was guaranteed, and the governor had no choice but to resign without ever being given the due process that he was entitled to. What a dark stain on the form of government we call democracy. What little they did to help a leader who helped us so much in all of his 43 years of service.
Want me to go next? Okay. Yeah, I'll start. Okay, good morning. I would like to start by thanking Michelle, Carmen, and New York for Justice for hosting this press conference. My name is Brenda Torres. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I've lived in this beautiful state my whole life. I've always been proud to call New York my home, but these past few months have changed my perception. My pride doesn't shine as bright as it did before. I am a New York voter who is absolutely dismayed at the events that have taken place in the past few months. The behavior of A.G. James, the Assembly, and the media are the culprits who have dimmed my pride. Governor Cuomo has been good for the people and the state of New York for 11 years while in office. New York prospered. We had an increase in jobs, our economy was rising, and construction of buildings was at a boom. Long overdue projects were being completed under his leadership. 2019 was ending on a high note. None of us were aware of what we were going to face in 2020. A disease called COVID-19 was waiting to rear its ugly head and cripple New York. One man stood up and stood out as the voice that would protect, guide, and tell the truth to the people. Governor Cuomo, as a leader, accepted the challenge and navigated the people through the worst of times. Excuse me, I'm a second, sorry. My apologies. Again, my apologies for that. Now, let's fast forward to this year. The same man who everyone only a year ago was praising and being thought of as possible candidate for presidency was accused of alleged misconduct. He declared his innocence over and over, but it fell on deaf ears. No one was listening. His enemies in the assembly were ready to be judge and jury, to find him guilty regardless of contrary proof offered. Political ambition had already knocked and entry was given at the state attorney general's office. Some of the public believed the one-sided information being fed to them, but the majority of the people reserved judgment, waiting for the AG's independent report. In retrospect, how blind and naive we were, expecting a fair and unbiased investigation to be conducted. Unfortunately, that's not what we received. Instead, we received a flawed report from AG Letitia James. Her goal was never to seek the truth. Her goal was to tarnish and remove her political opponent by only including information that would cast guilt. Nothing that would have found him innocent. We suspected she would run for governor, but we still hoped she would not let her political ambition cloud her judgment. Again, we were mistaken. She knew there was no possibility for a win against a formidable opponent like Governor Cuomo, who made it no secret of his intention to seek a fourth term. The flawed AG report has many inconsistencies. With the testimonies given, events and circumstances have changed from what was originally told. But no one except for one reporter who has questioned the legitimacy of this report has asked the basic question: why? We as supporters and voters have asked ourselves these questions. Why were the truly independent and non-biased investigators not chosen? Why haven't the backgrounds and possible motives of alleged accusers been looked into? Why do the telling of the events keep changing? Why were these so-called incidents not reported right away? Why was it allowed for an accuser to threaten a witness? Why must all women be believed? Why was the governor not believed? And why did the investigators' questions seem to only want to elicit answers that would benefit their narrative? Why was the governor asked the same questions over and over after he had answered them? Why is the governor's reply of, "I don't recall," mean he is lying? There are so many unanswered questions that we, the voters, demand be answered. We, the voters, have taken the time to read all reports, all testimonies, and know that there is something seriously wrong going on. Due process was not given. Mr. R.A. Ramirez was disturbed by the injustice he was witnessing. Working with lawyers and investigators, he produced this independent report, which has been endorsed by New Yorkers for Justice, read and supported by many voters. This report sheds light on how corrupt A.G. James' report is and how criminally negligent A.G. James has acted. Her duty was to represent the people of New York, which includes the governor. She should have never been part of this investigation. She should have recused herself. The independent report breaks down and explains the conflicts of A.G. James's report, a report that should not be used by anyone to make any definitive judgments or accusations. It is unfortunate the Assembly has chosen to use this corrupt report as their blueprint for their own report. Again, another flawed, biased report presented to the public first, but not to Rita Glavin. So now, instead of missing one transcript, she is now missing two. How is she expected to defend her client properly if the law is not being followed? Isn't all evidence to be given to a defense attorney so a proper defense can be conducted? How in our democracy can this be considered fair? Nothing in the behavior of A.G. James and the Assembly constitute respect for the law. It shows the opposite, a disregard for the law, and if they're allowed to proceed in this fashion, what can we expect in the future? As for the media, I just have one thing to say. Headlines don't make the story. Having a good or sensational headline is not what the public demands. Facts and truth are what we demand, not a story based on gossip, innuendo, unnamed sources, and personal biases. This is referred to as yellow journalism, which is alive and well in the U.S., especially here in New York. The reporting that has taken place in the past year has been absolutely disheartening and, dare I say, shameful. But Michael Tracy gives me hope. Hope that there are journalists who still have pride and honor when it comes to how they report their stories. New Yorkers, I say, don't give up hope. Do not despair. The truth will come out, and it is one voice that matters, and that is the voice of the voters. Next year will be the year our voices will be heard, loud and clear. We will say in the ballot box what we've been saying out loud. It's time for a welcome change. Thank you all for listening and for attending this press conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ya, ahí está. Okay. Okay. Good morning. And thank you for being with us today. My name is Carmen Enriquez. I am member of the Democratic State Committee, Assembly District 39, Queens, and also a community activist. This independent community report upholds that the New York State Attorney General Letitia James politically weaponized the law to oust ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo. Letitia James' trial by press conference says the end of due process and constitutional law as we know it in America. New York State and various U.S. federal legislators called for Governor Cuomo's resignation was anti-democratic. At the request of a group of New York City constituents from various Democratic districts of Queens who want to express disappointment and frustration over the unfair attitude of the New York State Attorney General Letitia James and of the New York State legislators and various U.S. federal legislators towards Governor Andrew Cuomo, we are here to express our strong objections against the illegal, political, and biased Attorney General's report. And also, I belong to the group of New Yorkers for Justice. We want to express our also disappointment. Today's Attorney General James trial by press conference marks the end of due process and constitutional law as we know it in America. Conviction by press conference, investigative report, and media verdict without a trial become illegal 1,000 years ago. Is there any wisdom left? This was a Twitter sent by a former New York State Attorney General on August 3rd, 2021. Unfortunately, the public ignores the role of an Attorney General of New York State. Letitia James was only supposed to investigate and collect all the evidence and facts possible and notify both accusers and accused about this evidence. Ms. James was also supposed to be unbiased and independent. The objective was to create an investigative report in a search for the truth. In this case, she's assuming functions that are not her privilege because she's acting as prosecutor, judge, and jury. The women who have accused Governor Cuomo had regrettably failed to provide a single piece of credible evidence that determines without a doubt that Governor Cuomo is guilty of any misconduct. For example, the selfie of Governor Cuomo and Ms. Brittany Commisso was taken after he allegedly robbed her at his home in Albany in December 2019. If you look carefully at this photo, it is impossible to detect any evidence of sexual harassment simply because Ms. Commisso looks extremely pleased to be embracing Governor Cuomo. However, the other crucial accuser, Charlotte Bennett, who insists in being groomed, was mentioned in a 2017 lawsuit against Hamilton College for fabricating a sexual misconduct complaint against a student who got expelled. This complaint was later withdrawn. In my personal opinion, what happened was that Attorney General Letitia James did not have any credible evidence to convict Governor Cuomo and that is why she acted the way she did. She convicted Governor Cuomo of sexual harassment without giving him the opportunity of due process. Tish James has biased public opinion against him and has everybody thinking that he's guilty of sexual harassment. Ms. James never, ever mentioned the magic word, alleged accusations. Everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. We also believe that Attorney General James' actions have been politically motivated. We sent a letter, I mean members of my community, because I live in this community. We sent a letter to the members of New York State Senate and Assembly who were calling for Governor Cuomo's resignation on March 15, 2021, emphasizing that we cannot help and wonder that this is a case of he said, she said, just words without any evidence. There are not credible, we also emphasize that these women were not credible witnesses. We are very, very disappointed at President Biden because he believed in this politically motivated and unprofessional investigative report. And he immediately requested Governor Cuomo's resignation. We share Governor Cuomo's opinion that he mentioned on August 10, 2021, that if an attorney general convicts without facts, he or she is undermining the judicial system. Consequently, in my opinion, and the opinion of other people of my community, the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, should be fired or she should resign. Actually, we sent a letter to the Department of Justice requesting an investigation on Attorney General James' report. On October 20, 2021, we received a response for the Department of Justice on October 25th, 5 days after, stating that they are going to make a further investigation. We have the answer anyway. Various federal and state representatives were calling for Governor Cuomo's resignation without taking into account our or their constituents' will and our right to vote and to elect our leaders. Moreover, their call for Governor Cuomo's resignation was anti-democratic because it overrides their constituents' vote at the ballot box. What they are doing is weakening our Democratic Party of New York State. They are destroying the strongest leader of our Democratic Party. Personally, I believe they have something to learn from their fellow Republicans who are loyal and supportive to their base and its leaders. New York State Democratic legislators are public servants, which means they have the obligation to assist, serve, and represent us in Albany. According to Politico, in March 2021, among the vocal Cuomo critics, there is a group of progressive New York lawmakers in the state legislature, like State Senator Gustavo Rivera. He's a Democrat in the Bronx. He questioned, we are asking is, how do we make it impossible for our governor ever run again? Said Senator Rivera during a discussion. There are other state senators like Alessandra Biaggi, she's a Democrat from Westchester. There is another senator, state senator, Julia Salazar, Democrat from Brooklyn, and the Assemblywoman from Democrat from Manhattan, Yu-Line New. They all use the digital space to outmaneuver the governor. For all these anti-Cuomo lawmakers, the technology helped them to meet the moment. So this group met in an audio chat room on the app Clubhouse to plan the removal of Governor Cuomo. This political hit job is not over for us. It is the beginning of a process of clearing Governor Cuomo's political and personal reputation. Governor Cuomo's former Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy, he said, he was never called or interviewed by anyone at the Attorney General's office during the investigation. and no women ever came to him accusing Governor Cuomo of sexual harassment. Mr. Duffy was there for 4 years. So it's also intriguing that also the new governor, Mr. Hoco, Mrs. Hoco, also said that she never heard or saw any complaints of sexual harassment accusing Governor Cuomo during all these years beside him, which means that this accusation never happened, were fabricated to destroy our excellent governor, Andrew Cuomo. In conclusion, the public disclosure by the Attorney General James of the report in her press conference of August 3rd, 2021, is also in total violation of the provisions of the statute, as Ms. Michelle Landa was saying before. The governor was not provided with the report prior to its being made public as required by law. And this is very important to emphasize because the public, I think they do not know this. The entire process of the referral to the Attorney General and the disclosure of the report violate the terms of Executive Law 63(8) and is therefore illegal. This is in the Independent Community Report. The inquiry into the sexual harassment allegations against Governor Cuomo is the result of a concerted effort to politically neutralize the governor. The investigation against Governor Cuomo was illegal and ethically improper, and the result of the concerted political effort against the governor. The report produced as a result of the investigation is invalid and should be declared to be null and void. The debacle of the New York State Democrats began with this controversial and as yet unproven case of sexual harassment against ex-Governor Cuomo. The devastating results have already begun to be seen that the Democratic Party is losing its political power, even in New York City itself. For the first time in its history, 5 Republicans were elected to occupy seats in the city's council. Before, we had only 1, maybe 2. But now we have 5, anyway, elected in the city council. Millions of Democrats around our nation are angry towards the Democratic Party's elite of New York State, criticizing the way we are criticizing. I am among those angry Democrats. We are criticizing the way they have maneuvered the ex-governor Cuomo's case. Thank you very much for listening to New Yorkers for Justice. No, Michelle Landa is going to. Yeah.
Thank you. In conclusion, this investigation was deficient from its onset and its very basic elements. The Attorney General credited statements of witnesses whose accounts of events were ever changing over time and ignoring evidence by other witnesses that directly contradicted several of the allegations. It was sloppy, shoddy, deficient, and an improper investigation. It's politics at its worst, and Ms. James is clearly at the head of this. Since the printing of this report, we can see the tainted fingerprints of Ms. James as she continues to climb toward her goal. She most certainly conferred with another stained individual known as Sheriff Apple the Renegade. Was there collusion for him to file charges against the governor on behalf of Ms. Camiso without letting anyone, including Ms. Camiso, know what he was doing? Isn't it a bit coincidental that the very next day Ms. James announced her candidacy for a gubernatorial run in 2022? Shortly after that, a trooper who accused the governor of sexual misconduct resurfaced and tried to extort Melissa DeRosa, asking for money for her silence. And if that isn't enough, Jacob resurfaced with its book deal once again after twice voting that his deal was completely legal because a junior staffer was asked to compile some material related to his press briefings, and she said she believed it was related to the book. No proof, She just believed. But we, his supporters of this independent report, know what is behind all of this. In the now famous Clubhouse chat room, as we've heard, Gustavo Rivera asked the question, how do we make it impossible for him to run again? Senator Alessandra Biaggi proclaimed, and this is her words, it would take a mother effing army to oust him. Let's not forget for a moment that Ms. Biaggi had an axe to grind because Mario Cuomo would not pardon her grandfather for crimes he committed, and he spent 8 years in jail. She was just chomping at the bit to pay a Cuomo back for this, and she didn't care which Cuomo she got. She finally had the opportunity to do so. All of this wove a very tight weave. The political ambitions of Miss James, Yoon Kim's inability to prosecute Governor Cuomo when he tried to do so, Ann Clark, who was eager to get another sexual anything case under her belt, a sheriff who was eager to make a name for himself, and he certainly did, a senator carrying a grudge, and Assemblyman Ron Kim, who was trying to weasel a nail salon deal and got caught by the governor, and a whole bouquet of women, for whatever their reasoning was, an entire state legislature who couldn't be bothered to examine the facts, all lumped together, caused the disruption of New York by forcing the resignation of the most dynamic governor to date. Finally, I'd like to inform you of some of the events that occurred in our state since the loss of Governor Andrew Cuomo. New York has had 3 rather dangerous storms, and not once did the current governor give a warning, a briefing, or a syllable to the people who would have been affected. We had several tornadoes a few weeks back, and she never once commented on them nor inquired about the conditions thereafter. Governor Cuomo would not only have warned us to be vigilant and careful, but he would have been there to assess the damage, bringing a mop and a pail to help with the cleanup. COVID is sharply on the rise, and we have no direction from her at all. Instead, she left all the decisions to the inexperienced county executives. We've not had a briefing. We do not know the numbers. We do not know the hot spots. At this present time, Buffalo has 100% capacity in their hospitals. Where is she? This is a crisis, and she is nowhere to be found. You all have a copy of the independent report. Once you read the report, and I do urge you to carefully read it, you'll understand the political ambush that it was clearly an order to oust one of the greatest leaders in our country. I thank you for your time. We're going to take some questions if anyone has any. Did you want to ask the question?
She was first.
Okay.
So let me introduce myself. I'm a Democratic District Leader in the 40th State Assembly. My name is Martha Flores Vasquez. My constituents are very, very upset. They say that Governor Cuomo has no Democratic leadership support from the Democratic Party. State Committee woman, Democratic District Leader since 2002. So there are many, many Democratic District leaders. They have not come out openly and spoken about it. But behind the scenes, I can tell you, there's a lot of disgruntled people. There's a lot of upset leaders. There's even elected officials that because of the socialist movement, they're not saying anything, and there's nothing to fear. So my message to all of the leaders that are elected by the voters, don't fear the socialist Democrats, because it's a handful of leaders. And you need to think about, how do you want to sleep at night? Do you want to sleep well? Do you want to have a good night's sleep and wake up good? Because I can wake up good because I came out publicly and I said, I support my governor. I have to tell you, my dad died from COVID. And every single day I got up and I watched the news, and my best friend was Governor Cuomo. My best friend is still Governor Cuomo, because I have to look back on what he said before so that I can move forward, because now we have another variance and another variance and another variance, and we are in crises. I am also the president and founder of Community Prevention Alternatives for Families in Crises, okay? And as that leader, I get a lot of overwhelming phone calls. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of upset, and we need to put an end to this, because it's about mental health. It's about the stability of human beings. It's about human kindness. And he is also a human being. And we do not kick him down, and we do not push him aside and toss him aside for political ambition. That's all I have to say. There are no questions from me, except that I am the voice of thousands of voters, and this is their voice. Thank you.
I believe the gentleman in the back had a question.
Yes, Paul Richards, JVC Broadcasting, Long Island. You touched upon this subject earlier this morning, and there's been a lot of controversy about it regarding the numbers of deaths that have been reported from the nursing homes. Can you provide maybe some explanation about the different sets of recorded numbers that we've heard?
Certainly. I can even give you a personal accounting. I had COVID last November. I didn't have a bad case of it, so I wasn't hospitalized. 6 weeks later, I began collapsing. And it was diagnosed that I had blood clots in my lungs and in my legs. And I was developing, my heart was stopping, and it was due to COVID. Now, had I passed away in the hospital, how would that have been counted? Would I have been counted as dying from COVID? Would I have been counted as dying from the blood clots? That was so, it was so mixed up at the time. Nobody knew how to count what from where. Now let me bring you to the nursing home. Suppose I had lived in a nursing home and that happened to me. Would the death be counted from a nursing home death? Would it be a hospital death? Was it a blood clot death? Was it a COVID death? Suppose I had recovered from the COVID when I had it in November, went back to the nursing home because it was determined by the CDC once someone was well enough to go out of the hospital, they were to go home. Where's home? The nursing home. So they went to the nursing homes, who assured them, we are providing for these people. We have definite wards for them. We'll isolate them. They lied. They didn't have that. The reason they said that was because Medicare pays more for COVID patients. They also did not know at the time that COVID was being spread by the people coming in, the staff, the visitors. If you had COVID, you were already weakened. If you were in a nursing home, you weren't there because you were healthy and able to care for yourself. You had what they call comorbidities. So if they had had the COVID, went back, and were reinfected, of course they were going to die. Governor Cuomo was blamed for sending them back to the nursing home. They sent them home. Where is home for a nursing home person but the nursing home? If the families were so concerned, why didn't they take these people home so they could care for them? They left them in the nursing homes. It was a factory for COVID. Simple as that. It became so confusing that President Biden said, we cannot blame anyone for these deaths because we just did not know. This all occurred within the first month. Once they got a handle on it, then they were able to rearrange and do other things. But he was blamed for that first month. And that's unfair. And I can testify and say that I understand how this happened. The numbers were the same. It was all totaled up. Whether they died in the nursing home, whether they died in the hospital, whether they died because they got pneumonia from COVID, nobody knew at the time. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but for complete clarification, a quick follow-up, if I might.
Sure.
Why then were the patients from the nursing homes sent back to recover? I asked this only because so many of them died when they were sent back.
I thought I had, said something about, but let me explain. They were sent back to recover. They were no longer infected. When they were sent back, they were no longer infected. But I can tell you from personal experience, when you have COVID, you might not be actively infected, but so many of us have long haulers. And it took a long time. It took me all through November before I could actually get out of my recliner. I was so weakened. But they were sent back to the nursing home. And again, the visitors, the doctors, the nurses, the aides, they were bringing it back in. You know yourself, if you have a cold or a strep throat and you're exposed to it again, you're in a weakened condition for a while, you're going to get it again. That's what happened. Okay. Other, yes.
Can you tell me more about this independent report?
Yes, it was done. Well, I think you could probably answer the independent report better.
Yes, as Michelle quoted, there was it was like I live in this neighborhood, no far away from here, so we were extremely concerned about what was going on, and as I said, the public doesn't know the role of the Attorney General of a state, especially state of New York. So that is why we met and we was discussing what we should do. So then we hired some lawyers and investigators. We collect, all this information that you see in the independent report, because we want the public know the truth about the case of Governor Cuomo. So. Yeah, and the group, of course. I belong to the group, Ramirez, he's friendly. He doesn't belong to the group, but I do. So, but we work together with Ramirez to investigate, with lawyers, investigators. As you see, it's everything dated with quotes and Yes, you have 42 pages. Yes, everything.
The report just came out today, or just?
No, the report came in October. October 16, I think. Yes, October 16. It was supposed to come earlier, but there is a lot of information that's not in that report. Actually, one of the lawyers said no. Give me more time because I have more information. We said no. We needed to give to the public the information. So we didn't let. There is a lot more to say about this case.
Okay, your volunteer, Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah, Ramon Ramirez. He's an author. He's a member. He's also a member of the state committee. He is the male state committee member. I am the female. Assembly District 39. This belongs to the Assembly. Actually, this here belongs to District 39, the Assembly District 39. So I am the representative of state committee, the female. And Ramirez is also the male state committee member, District 39, the Assembly, District 39. He's author. He writes books about, and he was writing, articles about opinion. I don't know if you remember the Spanish newspaper Hoy, H-O-Y, that it closed like a few years ago. He was writing on that newspaper, in El Diario also, he was writing. Yeah, mainly in Spanish. So he's a political, active in the community. He's very active in the community. And we've been working together for many years in different, political campaigns. You name it. I have, I don't know how many years I have, but I've been very active. Well, actually, because I have a degree in political science. I have a bachelor's degree from Queen's College, and I have a master's degree in international relations from City College. So that's why. CUNY in the house. Actually, Martha belongs to CUNY too. That's why. Oh, you too. All right. Okay. Yeah, so that's why. Yes.
Join us. Join us. New Yorkers for Justice. We have a website. Okay, go on our website. You can join us. You can help us. We beg you. Help us get the word out. You may be wondering why I'm sitting here with a coat. There is a very good reason for this. Miss Camiso has changed her story 4 times. Absolutely. We knew this. We know her father-in-law, almost ex-father-in-law. Of course. We know her ex-father-in-law, soon to be, is friends with Sheriff Apple. But I'm wearing a coat for a reason. She changed her story 4 times. First time was November 16th. When she was there with 10 other workers, the cook in the house, the housekeeper, and he said there were about 10 people, and his family was upstairs. She claims he touched her then. Impossible. She was never away from these people. She then changed her story to November 25th. Which was wonderful, except the governor gave 2 briefings in Rochester. He was not there at the time. She gave another time that she was molested. That didn't work out either, so she decided December 7th was the date. Now, let me set the stage. His birthday was December 6th. All his girls were there. That was number 1. She swiped in at 3:51. She had something for him to sign. He said to her, "Take off your coat." She said, "I can't. I've got to go back to the Capitol." When she was questioned, they asked her, "What were you wearing?" She said, "I was wearing my winter coat." It was a black winter coat. I swear I didn't buy this for this occasion. She said, "I had a black winter coat." They said, "How was it closed?" She said it was zippered and belted. You tell me how he got his hand under the coat, zippered, belted, got her blouse out, and grabbed her breast. If he could do that, all right, if he could do that, he's more than a governor. He's David Copperfield, okay? So that is an impossible story. I don't think anybody in their right mind could understand that. She didn't remember when it happened. I was sexually assaulted 53 years ago. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, what he said. It was a building principle. I could tell you everything about it. I can't remember the date, but I could tell you what happened. My story would not have changed 4 different times. Any woman who was assaulted wouldn't say, this day, that day, this day, that day. With a coat on? Seriously? I have pictures there. Please look at them. They're pictures of Brittany Camiso. They're pictures of Lindsay Boylan. They are pictures of the woman who swore that he ran his hand across her chest. It's a rope line picture. You can see where he went from one to the other. The women complained he ogled me. He looked at me. He always said, look at the way they're dressed. I haven't seen that many legs exposed except on a spider. This is the way they went to work. That's cocktail party dress. That is not appropriate for a government office. One of the ladies complained that he said she looked like Daisy Dukes. Walked in with shorts up to here. Seriously? You work in the governor's office and you come in shorts up to here? Did she even know what Daisy Dukes was? It was a show. Another one came in with a buffalo plaid shirt, and he said she looked like a lumberjack. Inappropriate dress for the governor's office. If you're going to take a job like that, you dress the part. Okay? I urge you, look at the pictures. Lindsay Boylan said he harassed. First she said he never harassed her. Changed the story. He harassed her. There is a picture of her staring at him. Unfortunately, I didn't get the full picture. Not only is she staring at him like a lovesick cow, but her legs from here down were exposed. You can find that picture on Facebook. All of these pictures I certainly didn't take. I got them from Facebook, from the internet, from CBS. Please look at them. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We do not know. Someone is behind this. We do not know who it is. I believe it's someone even more influential than A.G. James. That's my personal belief. I think that this really needs to be investigated. I urge you, I beg you, please join our group. Whatever talents, whatever gifts and graces you have, we need to clear Governor Cuomo's name. He is being wrongly accused. He is being tortured. They do not let up on him. Every few days, if you notice, it's another zinger that comes out. They're even going after his brother now.
And let me tell you, there's people in the groups that we're in that I think are pretending to be supporting him that are not.
We've already caught them. We have caught them on our justice group. I'm one of the administrators, and if I don't know the name, I don't let them in. We know who they are. We are doing things in a very dignified manner. We are having rallies. We're having press conferences. We also had the banners, the Cuomo in the sky. We did the Albany banner, Albany billboards. What we've done, we've gone about in a very dignified way, the way we know Governor Cuomo and his family would accept and be happy with. We are working very hard. Everything that we have spoken about today is gospel. It has been researched. We didn't just get it from the top of our heads. We spent time reading reports. We looked at interviews. We've read articles. We have done everything we possibly can. We now urge you, word of mouth, go on our website. Any way, every way you can, spread the word that Governor Cuomo was ambushed. That is the way to say it. He was just ambushed. It was a political hit job.
I just want to mention one thing, please, for the media. Bless you for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us a voice.